We often talk about laziness like it's a disease, like it's this awful flaw that needs to be eliminated. We scold ourselves for being lazy. We feel guilt, shame, frustration. But we rarely stop to ask a deeper, more human question. Why are we lazy in the first place? Because the truth is, laziness is not the enemy. It's a message, it's a signal from something inside us. And if we're willing to pay attention, to really listen, it will tell us something important about ourselves. Think about it. No child is born lazy. Children don't wake up saying, I'd rather do nothing with my life. They move, they explore, they try, they fall, they try again, they ask questions. They pursue what excites them. They are driven by curiosity and wonder. So where does laziness come from? Laziness shows up when we lose our connection to why we're doing something, when we don't see meaning in the work. That's when the goal becomes blurred, when we're overwhelmed or afraid or unsure if what we're doing even matters. Laziness isn't a lack of ability, it's a lack of alignment. We've created a world where we equate productivity with purpose. We think that if we're not constantly grinding, something must be wrong with us. But in truth, the grind without direction is just motion without meaning. And when there's no meaning, the body resists, the mind pulls away. That resistance is what we call laziness. It's not lazy. Ask the teacher who believes in shaping young minds. Ask the artist who can't wait to express their truth on a blank canvas. Ask the entrepreneur who's building something that matters to them. They're not superhuman. They have hard days too. But they're not fighting themselves to get moving because they've found the thread, that purpose that pulls them forward even when it's hard. So if you feel lazy, maybe the better question is, what part of me feels disconnected from this work? Maybe you're not lazy. Maybe you're uninspired. Maybe you're unclear. Maybe you've been trying to chase someone else's dream. Maybe you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason. We've been taught to fight laziness with pressure, with deadlines, with shame. But none of those things produce commitment. At best, they produce compliance. You might move, but you'll resent it. You'll burn out. You'll stop again. And the cycle will continue. Real change begins when we stop judging the symptom and start addressing the cause. What would happen if instead of saying, I'm just lazy, you asked yourself, what am I avoiding? Maybe it's fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of wasting time on something that might not work, or maybe you just haven't connected what you're doing to who you want to be. Purpose isn't a lightning bolt. It's not something you find once and for all. It's something you grow into. But it starts with honesty. Radical, uncomfortable honesty. What do you care about? What lights you up? Even just a little. What would make the work feel worth it? And here's where the shift happens. Once you identify the why, the work changes. The tasks are the same. The effort is the same. But you're not dragging yourself anymore. You're being drawn forward. You're not pushing through laziness. You're acting from purpose. Some people say, I just need to be more motivated. But motivation is fleeting. It's like a sugar rush. It gets you going, then disappears. Purpose, on the other hand, is a steady flame. It might not burn as hot, but it burns longer. And when the day is hard, when your energy is low, purpose gives you something deeper to hold on to. Let's stop glorifying hustle for the sake of hustle. Let's stop pretending that exhaustion is a badge of honor. And let's stop beating ourselves up when our bodies are trying to send us a message. If you feel lazy, don't run from it. Sit with it. Ask it questions. Get curious. What are you really resisting? What would make you want to act instead of forcing yourself to act? Laziness, when listened to, can become one of your greatest teachers. It reveals the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It exposes what's misaligned. It shows you where something needs to shift. And sometimes the answer isn't to push harder. Sometimes the answer is to pause, to reflect, to reconnect with the reason you started, or to find a new reason altogether. There's a powerful moment that happens when someone reconnects with their why. Their eyes change, their posture changes. They no longer say, I have to do this. They say, I get to do this. And that shift, that single shift, turns resistance into readiness. So, kill your laziness? Maybe not yet. Understand it first. Study it. Find the root of it. Because laziness isn't a weakness, it's a whisper. A whisper asking, is this the life you actually want to live? And if the answer is no, then good. You've just discovered something. You've just met the truth. And from truth, we can build. From truth, we can create discipline, not out of guilt, but out of desire. Not out of pressure, but out of clarity. The most driven people you admire are immune to laziness. They've just learned to translate it, to use it, to let it guide them back to what matters. They've stopped fighting themselves and started listening to themselves. And in doing so, they found the reason to keep going, even when it's hard. You're not broken. You're not flawed. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to connect with what matters. The work is waiting for you. But first, listen to what your so-called laziness is trying to say. It might just be the first step toward the life you were meant to build. We all delay. We all tell ourselves, I'll start tomorrow. And for a moment, that feels like relief. It's a release valve from the pressure. We convince ourselves that we'll be more ready later, more energized, more focused. But what we don't realize is that every time we choose delay, we are paying a price, a hidden cost that isn't obvious until it's too heavy to ignore. See, time doesn't stop when we hesitate. The world doesn't slow down to wait for us. Opportunity doesn't stand still. The window doesn't stay open. Every second we delay, the moment is moving on without us. But the danger isn't just in missed chances, it's in who we slowly become when we keep putting off what matters. The cost of delay is identity erosion. Because each time you say, I'll do it later, you're making a statement about who you are. Even if you don't realize it. You're reinforcing the story that maybe you're someone who doesn't follow through. Someone who waits. Someone who stays where it's comfortable. And that identity, repeated enough times, becomes truth. It's not just the work that suffers, you suffer. Your confidence shrinks, your trust in yourself weakens, you look in the mirror and slowly stop believing your own promises. That's the real danger of delay, not the project that didn't get done, not the goal that keeps getting pushed back, but the quiet breaking of trust with yourself. And here's the part that most people miss. The longer you delay, the heavier the work becomes. Not because the task itself changed, but because your mental and emotional resistance grows. The idea of doing it becomes more overwhelming. The mountain looks taller. The gap feels wider. Delay compounds the pressure. And suddenly, what could have been a small effort feels like an impossible climb. We like to tell ourselves that delay is a neutral act, that waiting doesn't hurt anything. But that's not true. Delay always has a cost. Sometimes it's momentum. Sometimes it's self-respect. Sometimes it's a chance you won't get back. And the longer we ignore the cost, the more we normalize it. We get comfortable with delay. We build lives around it. We surround ourselves with distraction so we don't have to feel the weight of what we're avoiding. We don't do this because we're lazy. We do this because we're afraid. Afraid of starting, afraid of failing, afraid of not being good enough, afraid of what success might require of us. And so delay becomes a shield, a way to protect ourselves from discomfort. But what starts as protection eventually becomes a prison. We trap ourselves in patterns that don't serve us simply because they're familiar. The irony is that most people are waiting for the right time. They say, I'll begin when I feel ready. But readiness is a myth. There is no perfect moment. There is no magical alignment of circumstances where everything feels easy. Readiness isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. You earn readiness through action, not before it. The people we admire, the ones who seem to move forward with purpose and clarity, they're not fearless. They're not always ready. They just decided to act anyway. They felt the same fear, the same hesitation, but they didn't let it dictate their choices. They understood that the cost of delay was too high, not just in outcomes, but in the person they wanted to become, because that's the real work. Choosing to become someone who follows through, someone who honors their word, someone who does the hard thing now, not later. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's powerful, it builds strength, it builds trust. And over time, it builds a life that reflects who you actually want to be. There's something deeply human about wanting to wait, about wanting the conditions to be perfect. But if we wait for perfect, we'll wait forever. What if instead of perfect, we aimed for present, for committed, for just showing up? Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is simply start, even if it's messy, even if it's small, especially if it's hard. Because every moment you choose action over delay, you reclaim something, you take back control. You say, I'm not waiting to feel ready, I'm choosing to be responsible for what I can do right now. That decision, even once, can shift your trajectory. And here's the beautiful truth. Action creates clarity. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a 5-year plan. You need movement. Because once you move, once you begin, the fog starts to lift, the next step becomes visible. And the cost of delay is replaced with the reward of momentum. The world doesn't need more potential. It needs more people who are willing to use theirs, who are willing to stop waiting, who are willing to step into the discomfort of beginning. Not because they feel like it, but because they understand the cost of not doing it is too great. You have work to do. Not just tasks, work that matters. Work that is tied to your purpose, your values, your vision. That work is not neutral. It doesn't sit idle while you delay. It grows in urgency, and it waits for you, but not forever. There's a version of you on the other side of procrastination that is stronger, braver, and more focused. But you can't meet them by standing still. You meet them by doing the work, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Because every time you act when you don't feel like it, you're telling the world and yourself that you are not defined by delay. You're defined by discipline. You're defined by the way you show up when it matters. So stop asking if you feel ready. Ask if you're willing to pay the cost of waiting one more day. Ask if you're okay with who you become every time you delay because you have work to do. And it's time to get back to it. There's something we say far too often when we're trying to change. I just need to get motivated. We scroll through videos, look for quotes, wait for a spark, chase a feeling. And when we don't feel that surge of inspiration, we stop. We delay. We give up. Because in our minds, action is supposed to follow motivation. That's what we've been taught. But let's ask the uncomfortable question. What happens when motivation doesn't show up? The truth is, motivation is not reliable. It's emotional. It's based on how you feel in a moment. And feelings are fragile. They change with the weather, with your sleep, with your mood. You can feel unstoppable at 9 a.m. and completely defeated by 4 p.m. If you build your life around motivation, you've built on sand. You're at the mercy of your emotions. And the problem is, your future can't afford that kind of inconsistency. The people who do hard things, the ones who follow through, who build, who endure, they are not constantly motivated, but they are consistently disciplined. Because discipline is what shows up when motivation doesn't. Discipline is a decision. It's a quiet agreement with yourself that says, no matter how I feel, I'll do what needs to be done. Motivation makes promises it can't keep. It sounds harsh, rigid, like a punishment. But what if we redefined it? What if discipline isn't a cage but a commitment, a form of self-respect, a tool for freedom, not restriction? Motivation makes promises it can't keep. It tells you the story of how great it will feel to begin, and sometimes, yes, it gets you started. But the moment things get uncomfortable, when the excitement fades, when the grind begins, and in that moment, something else has to carry you. That something is discipline. Discipline is doing the work even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching. It's waking up early, not because you want to, but because the version of you you're trying to become demands it. It's sitting down to write, to study, to train, not because you're inspired, but because you made a promise. And that promise means more than your feelings. The difference between people who succeed and people who quit is not talent, it's not intelligence, it's not opportunity, it's consistency. And consistency is born from discipline, not motivation. There is a moment every day, maybe many moments, when you won't feel like doing the thing. And in that moment, your mind will offer you 1,000 excuses. You're tired, you've earned a break, you can do it tomorrow. That voice is not the enemy. It's human. But you don't have to listen to it. Discipline gives you a louder voice, a deeper reason, a higher commitment. Ask yourself, what kind of life are you trying to build? What kind of person do you want to become? That version of you, the focused one, the resilient one, the person who shows up, they don't exist because of feelings, they exist because of choices. One small choice at a time. And here's the real secret. Discipline doesn't kill joy, it creates it. Because when you keep the promises you make to yourself, you build trust. When you follow through on the hard days, you feel proud. When you act in alignment with your goals, your confidence grows. That's not punishment, that's power. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And systems are built through discipline, routines, habits, structures that support your effort even when motivation is nowhere in sight. We love motivation because it feels good. But feelings aren't fuel, not for the long road. Discipline is fuel. And the beauty of discipline is that it compounds. Every time you choose it over comfort, you make it stronger, you make it easier next time. You don't just do the work, you become the kind of person who does the work. And yes, it's hard at first. Discipline takes effort, but so does regret. So does starting over. So does looking in the mirror and knowing you're capable of more than you're giving. If it's going to be hard either way, why not choose the kind of hard that builds something? The most fulfilling lives are not lived in bursts of motivation. They're lived in quiet moments of consistency, when no one's clapping, when the finish line is still far off, when the choice to keep going is a whisper, not a roar. People think they need to feel inspired to act, but the truth is action creates inspiration, not the other way around. You want motivation? Do the thing. Start small. Start tired. Start unprepared. Just start. Because once you act, once you push through, once you finish what you didn't want to begin, that is when motivation shows up. It's the reward for your effort, not the requirement for it. So stop waiting for a better mood. Stop waiting for the right song, the perfect quote, the sudden breakthrough. Stop handing your future over to a feeling that may or may not show up. Take ownership, build discipline. Because in the end, motivation might get you started, but only discipline will keep you going. Only discipline can carry the weight of your vision. Only discipline can hold the line when the noise gets loud and the way gets hard. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to be willing. You don't have to move mountains today. You just have to take the next right step with intention, with consistency, and with the quiet courage to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire. And you have work to do. We live in a world obsessed with greatness. Everywhere you look, there's pressure to be exceptional, to stand out, to become someone extraordinary. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to be responsible. That may sound simple, even unremarkable, but it's not. Responsibility, true, deep responsibility, is rare because it requires something many people avoid. It requires ownership. Ownership of your time, ownership of your energy, ownership of your choices, your path, your impact, and most importantly, ownership of your purpose. Purpose is not some vague, lofty idea reserved for dreamers and visionaries. Purpose is personal, it's practical. It's the reason you get up in the morning and do the work. Not because someone's watching, not because it's glamorous, but because it matters to you. And once you know what that is, once you connect with the work that aligns with your purpose, you don't get to sit back and wait for the perfect moment. Because purpose, once discovered, demands responsibility. You don't have to change the world, but you do have to show up for your part of it. That's the shift. When you realize that your work, whatever it is, serves something bigger than just a paycheck or a task list, you begin to see it differently. It becomes a matter of integrity. It's not about ambition, it's about alignment. You begin to realize that every time you neglect that work, you're not just delaying progress, you're stepping away from your duty to your own potential. Responsibility to purpose doesn't mean you're perfect, or it doesn't mean you never miss a step. It means that even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, you come back. You recalibrate, you return to the work, because you understand its weight, its meaning, its role in shaping who you are. Most people think of purpose as this massive life mission, but often purpose is quiet. It's not shouted from a stage. It's shown in how you treat others, how you commit to the craft, how you keep your word, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. Purpose is lived, not announced. And the more you live it, the more responsibility you accept for nurturing it. Responsibility to purpose means choosing what matters even when it's not exciting. It means taking the meeting, writing the page, practicing the skill, having the hard conversation, because it aligns with the future you believe in. It means doing the work even when you'd rather rest, not out of guilt, but out of devotion, because you know this work is part of your calling. Not just your career, your calling. We often talk about freedom like it's the opposite of responsibility, but that's wrong. Freedom without responsibility is chaos. It's drift. Real freedom comes when you commit to something so fully that it gives your life shape, direction, focus. That's what purpose gives you, and responsibility is how you protect it. And here's what no one says out loud. The world needs you to take that responsibility seriously, because your purpose doesn't live in isolation. It touches other people, your family, your friends, your team, your community. When you rise to the occasion of your purpose, you give others permission to do the same. Responsibility to purpose is not just personal, it's relational. And the truth is, people are watching you. They're learning from how you show up, from how you handle pressure, from how you deal with failure. You may not even realize the influence you carry, but the way you live your life is shaping someone else's understanding of what's possible. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be intentional. Because purpose fades when it's neglected. You can't set it and forget it. You have to fight for it, reconnect with it, recommit to it. Responsibility means saying, I may not be the most talented, the most experienced, the loudest voice in the room, but I am someone who will show up fully, consistently, honestly. And that choice, that quiet choice, to take your work seriously, to treat your time like it matters, to give your energy where it has the most impact, that choice creates transformation. There will always be reasons to step back. There will always be distractions, doubts, discouragement. But the people who stay connected to their purpose don't live without obstacles. They just don't give the obstacles more power than the mission. Responsibility doesn't mean you carry it all alone. It means you own your role. You say, this part, this contribution, this effort, this is mine, and I will honor it. And in doing so, you invite others to do the same. Responsibility becomes contagious. It spreads, it builds trust, and that trust turns into progress. Don't wait to be perfect. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to be discovered or validated. Take the work seriously now. Because purpose is not a prize you're given at the finish line. It's a reason to begin again and again every single day. You're not responsible for saving the world, but you are responsible for showing up in the space where your gifts meet a need. That's purpose. And that's where you have work to do. So yes, be disciplined, stay focused, set goals, but above all, stay connected, not just to the outcome, but to the why behind it. That connection turns ordinary work into meaningful work. That connection fuels persistence. It creates clarity, it sharpens priorities. And when you're clear on your purpose, you stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what happens if I don't show up. That's what responsibility to purpose looks like. It's not about pressure, it's about presence. It's about realizing your life isn't just something you live, it's something you lead. And leadership starts with owning the one thing no one else can ever own for you: your purpose. We say it so casually, I'll do it later. It rolls off the tongue like it costs nothing, but that sentence carries more weight than we realize. Later is not just a delay, it's a gamble, a quiet hope that time will wait for us, that we'll have the energy, the opportunity, the motivation when we finally decide to act. But time doesn't work like that. Time doesn't wait, time doesn't pause, time doesn't rewind. And here's the hard truth: you don't get time back. We treat time like it's unlimited, but it isn't. It's a currency we're always spending, whether we like it or not. And unlike money, unlike energy, unlike opportunities, once it's gone, no refunds, no do-overs, just moments you either used or lost. Minutes that either mattered or disappeared. And the scariest part is that we don't always notice the loss right away. We feel busy, distracted, entertained. But when the noise fades and we finally look back, we realize how much of our life we've spent putting things off, promising ourselves we'd begin tomorrow. The question isn't whether we waste time. We all do, in ways big and small. The question is, how long are you willing to keep doing it? How long will you let laziness disguise itself as rest? How long will you let distraction wear the mask of productivity? How many days are you prepared to spend waiting for a moment that may never feel right? We imagine we have all the time in the world, especially when we're young or comfortable or surrounded by distractions. But time is not a guarantee. It's a gift. And the value of that gift increases the moment you recognize its limits. Because once you see time for what it really is, not endless, not forgiving, but fleeting, you start to treat it with the respect it deserves. You don't have to live in fear of time running out, but you do have to live in awareness of it. That awareness changes how you wake up. It changes what you prioritize. It changes the excuses you're willing to entertain. Because when you realize every day is a day you don't get back, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop making decisions based on comfort. You start asking better questions. Is this worth my time? Will this move me forward? What would I wish I had done with this day if I look back a year from now? Too often we confuse movement with progress. We stay busy. We fill our schedules. We check boxes. But none of that matters if we're not moving in the direction that matters to us. Time is only valuable when it's intentionally used. You can't buy back last week. You can't redo yesterday, but you can choose differently today. And that's where your power is, not in reclaiming the past, but in reclaiming your priorities. There's an urgency we must learn to live with, not panic, not pressure, but purpose, a deep understanding that you've been given this moment, this day, this opportunity. And what you do with it shapes what comes next. You are building your future with the bricks of each passing hour. And if you're not laying those bricks with care, you may end up somewhere you never meant to go. That's how regret happens. Not all at once, but little by little. It sneaks in through days we didn't use well, conversations we never had, chances we kept saying later to. We think we'll have time to fix it all, to start over, to get serious. But the people who live with the deepest regret aren't the ones who failed. They're the ones who waited. The ones who didn't realize what they had until it was gone. This is not about being busy every second. It's not about grinding endlessly or never resting. It's about being honest with yourself. Honest about what you're avoiding. Honest about where your time is actually going, honest about whether you're truly honoring your goals or just thinking about them, talking about them, planning around them, but never really acting on them. The way you spend your time is a reflection of what you value, not what you say you value, but what you actually choose. You may say your dream matters, you may say your purpose matters, but if your time is going somewhere else entirely, then there's a disconnect, and that disconnect becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes your life. There's nothing wrong with rest. Nothing wrong with leisure. But there is something wrong with wasting time you can never recover. Something wrong with knowing you have work to do, meaningful work, purpose-filled work, and still letting it sit untouched because you're waiting to feel ready. The cost of that delay isn't just time. It's momentum. It's confidence. It's trust in yourself. But when you really think about it, what would it mean to live a life where your time matched your intention? What would it look like to go to bed each night knowing you didn't waste the day, not because you did everything perfectly, but because you did what mattered most? What kind of impact would that version of you make? What kind of peace would that bring? You don't get time back. That fact alone should light a fire in your gut. Not fear, focus. The clarity to say no to what's stealing your attention. The resolve to stop putting off what you were born to build. The courage to begin now. Not later, not eventually, but now. Because now is all you have. And now is enough. You have work to do. Not someday, today. Not when you feel like it, now. The clock isn't waiting, the world isn't pausing. And your purpose isn't going to fulfill itself. So stop treating time like it's infinite. Start treating it like it's precious. Because it is. And you don't get it back.